Right. Cool. All right. So I'm here with Srijan, who's a co-founder of Noise. How many here have heard of Noise? Sweet. And how many here have some noise? How many here are ready to make some noise? All right. Cool. So, Srijan, you just want to give a brief intro about what Noise is?
Yeah, sure. Noise actually started with a very simple, basic idea around how we can accelerate moving tokens across the internet, and it's basically on social media. So we started building an app on top of this decentralized social media called Farcaster, which is very much similar to Twitter, but a lot of crypto people are on it. So what Noise does, it basically helps you send tokens when you kind of interact on any post on Farcaster. When you like, comment, recast, you can send a token in what you believe. So whatever token you believe in, whether be it Ethereum, Noise, any token on Base or Arbitrum, you can send them. So it was a very basic idea we started about 3 months ago.
Nice. And where is Noise at right now? How many transactions have you done so far?
I don't know the exact numbers, but close to about 9-10 million transactions. Close to, I think, 70,000 folks have interacted with it, unique folks. About close to, I would say, $1.5 million worth of transactions flowing through it. So yeah.
Nice. So you're saying all 37 of Farcaster users have used it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good joke, but I think that was also one part of what Noise did. It really blown on Farcaster. Farcaster roughly has about, say, it has more than 1 million users, but about, say, 50,000 active users, out of which it has kind of encapsulated all of them. Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of felt that you've hit the top.
Yeah.
And after that, I think you set your eyes on Twitter, and then what happened?
Yeah. So exactly, right? So we kind of were working on it on Farcaster. It kind of made sense. And we wanted to kind of see, okay, how do we grow Noise now? In which case, it kind of made sense to kind of take this experience onto bigger social platforms like Instagram, Twitter being the obvious choice, Reddit, anywhere else. And when we wanted to kind of do that, we went and tried to get access to the APIs, which is not the case in Farcaster. Farcaster is an open, programmable social network. Anyone can build on top of it without even asking for access of APIs. But when we went to Twitter and asked them that, hey, dude, we want to kind of build an experience like this, they did not like the idea, which also makes sense because Twitter earns money through ads. And if people send tokens when they interact on social, on Twitter, when they're liking, reposting, recasting, commenting, it kind of disrupts their ad model. So they did not like the idea about the same experience kind of building on Twitter. And similarly with other closed social media platforms, be it Reddit, Instagram, it's very hard to kind of get API access. And if we don't really have the API access, it's very hard to build a good experience. So yeah.
Makes sense. And that led you to famously create content on how Twitter told you to F off, right?
Yeah, I think that's why my co-founder is kind of, I think that's also one of the unique things that we try to do. We like to be honest with the folks that we are building for. As things goes, we want to kind of share those things, kind of take feedback from the community, and kind of work on it. So it's kind of happening, all of it is happening real time. So as we get feedback, we kind of work on things. And that's how our roadmap also has been. When we launched, we had an idea about what Noise could be in a couple of months. But as we launched, as we got feedback from our community, we kept iterating it. And that's how even the whole idea around internet capital markets formed. So when we launched Noise, the product, we also launched a token with it. which really enabled folks who believed in the idea and believed in us to be part of it. And which helped us not only gain attention to what we are trying to build, but also form a very strong community of folks who believed in us and gave us feedback around what potential things that we could do. And based on that, we have been iterating and iterating again. So, yeah.
Amazing. And I believe the token is right now sitting at 40 mil?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around that. Yeah.
Cool. So what's next for Noise, and what's this idea with internet capital markets?
Yeah, like I was saying, right? Like when we kind of launched our product, we also launched a coin with it, which kind of helped folks to be part in this journey. And that's what kind of happens with also a lot of crypto projects and crypto tokens, right? Like Ethereum, for example. Ethereum was launched by Vitalik on a white paper, and he crowdfunded money to kind of build Ethereum, right? I don't know, I think it was back in 2013. That was the real internet capital market, that you don't need to be an aggregated investor to be to believe in something. You can be anywhere in this world, any part, and you can participate in the journey of the idea of the founders. So that's what we are trying to do. What happened with Noise, we want to kind of help accelerate that for other founders, kind of help them get on chain, get their products on chain, have a token with them. And I think it's a very interesting moment given how regulations are going in the right direction, especially in the United States, where regulators are working on legal frameworks to make token more legible. I think a lot of startups are going to come on chain, a lot of businesses are going to come on chain, and it will really accelerate that. So the internet economy is going to really go big.
Amazing. So quick show of hands, how many of you here are either founders or are planning to be founders sometime? Okay. And how many of you are planning to launch tokens? Or have already launched tokens? Wow.
Yeah.
Why this disconnect, Srijan? Why aren't people launching more tokens?
In my opinion, I think largely it has been a regulatory hurdle, right? Especially like in a country like India, where there are no legal frameworks around crypto, and how even right now crypto startups are not even legal in India. I guess it's a gray area. With US kind of taking a step forward into creating these frameworks, other countries would definitely start seeing it in the right direction. Other line of thought which I also have is, right, before AI, building a software required you 5 people at least, right? You needed an engineer, a marketer, a salesperson, then you built a POC, got some traction, then probably you could go to a VC, raise a round of funds, then keep iterating about finding product market fit, and then probably you IPO. That was what you kind of did before AI. Now with AI, software, like building only software isn't going to be the moat. The moat would be, are you able to create mindshare for the idea or the product that you're building? And in my opinion, a very strong opinion that I have, is that tokens help you accelerate that. Tokens help you generate attention. If people like your idea, like what you're building, they want to kind of help you. It helps you generate speculation. And I think a lot of products are going to get tokenized. So yeah.
Interesting. So it's kind of using speculation, the speculative energy, to bootstrap capital for your project, right? In my view, it is sort of combines crypto's core sort of powers. One is like capital formation. It's a very strong power, and then like just moving money. It's like so easy in crypto, right? Do you think it's like a reimagining of the ICO era, and why do you think now is the right time? Why do you think it failed then, and why do you think now is the right time?
I mean, I would not say like it failed. I think you see a lot of projects still successful. Of course, like you could see a ton of projects like it really didn't turned out to be a lot of scam. But I think like I mentioned, like I think now it kind of makes sense. It's just because of regulatory hurdle, right? Like there was a lot of regulations hurdle. The governments were kind of saw crypto in a bad way, and now especially US kind of leading the front foot of kind of creating frameworks around it. It's going to get better and better. And like you mentioned, capital formation is like one of the core idea about crypto, that you can be anywhere in the world, any country, you can participate and help form this capital. And and you don't need to be an accredited investor. Like if you have a US company, for example, and if you want to raise funds, I can't really put money into it, even if I have the money. So yeah.
What are other examples other than noise, right? I'm sure you're biased towards noise, but like now that you're thinking about internet capital markets, I'm sure you've sampled many more companies, right? Who do you think is playing this game well? Who do you think as a token has managed to like benefit from it?
Well, I think a lot of projects are coming on chain. A lot of people are like tokenizing their projects. I think it definitely makes a lot of sense for on-chain companies to have token. Anyone with on-chain revenue should have a token. Also, if you really think about it, tokens are programmable. You can actually create incentives that you want for the people that hold your token or do things with your token. There are multiple projects, right? I think not only on the Ethereum chain, Base chain, also on Solana chain, like people are trying out interesting ways on how they can raise capital. There's this interesting project called Believe, which is getting founders to come on chain, raise their early rounds of funding on chain from people around the world. There are multiple projects on Base, like Clanker, which is a similar project trying to bring projects on chain. A lot of people are trying
Banker
to do that.
also.
Yeah, Banker, Clanker, all of those are like really interesting experiments. And I think like a lot of new experiments are going to come. On similar lines, there has been a lot of experiments happening around Futarchy. I think Futarchy, I don't know how do you pronounce it. Vitalik being one of like someone he's been really talking about it. And I think that's also an interesting way of how people who are holding your token can be part of your journey on what decisions should your company make. So I think the future looks very, very bright.
Do you think Ethereum is behind Solana in this race of tokenization?
Like the most tokens right now, if it is the most valuable tokens which have any meaning, I think they exist on Ethereum. On Solana, there are a lot of tons of tokens. I don't know if they have a lot of meaning behind them, but yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just inclined with Ethereum more. So.
Sounds good. Sounds right up my alley. But yeah, like we probably have time for one or two questions. If anyone has opinions around tokens, yeah.
Thank you. So hello, I'm Obro. So maybe I'm wrong, but I have a question about tokenization. You mentioned that tokenization is good, but many companies do quests. Specifically, I'm talking about airdrop. Okay. So I have met many people who are not even interested in Web3 or blockchain. They are just doing the quest and all the stuffs to get the token, and after that, they just sell the token and exit the program. So the projects are not getting anything from it. So is tokenization, the idea of tokenization, kind of contradictory or not? This is just a POV of mine.
Yeah, I think definitely makes sense. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's about how the project sees their value of tokens, right? And who do they want to give that token to? If they see that, okay, airdropping their tokens to specific kind of people who could be adding value in terms of, I don't know, creating noise or giving them attention is good for the project, they might do that. I think it's very opinionated. Like, how do projects kind of see airdrops and how do they want to kind of give it to people? Like, for example, we also did an airdrop, but we gave it to the users who used our product. Right, people who were using Noise, Noise app on Farcaster, they got a portion of airdrop and they could claim it. And I'm sure like a lot of people also sold it, but it was a great way for us to kind of give value to the people who are using our app. We actually saw that we got a lot of new users post our airdrop, so it was kind of beneficial to us. We got a lot more feedback from the new users who came in. So yeah. Again, like I said, it's very opinionated on the project who does the airdrops.
Yeah, that's what I also said, that it's kind of contradictory. We might get new users, but there's also a chance that they are just going to be the exit liquidity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So one question that I had is, how do you prevent founders from going into the trap where, they launch a token to bootstrap, some capital for them to continue working on their product, but then at some point in time they become too focused on sort of keeping their treasury alive and like making sure that the token prices are high, that they almost completely forget or like neglect the product that they're building. Like, what do you think is, a solution to prevent such situations from happening?
I think like my biggest opinion there is you have to kind of disassociate yourself with the token price. If you're kind of working on your product and you're kind of iterating upon your product, token price would be a reflection of that. And it's very hard to do that. It's like when you have a token, you kind of associate your success and failure with the token. But I think as a founders, that's the biggest learning that I personally also have had, and that's what we are trying to kind of give it to other founders that we are working with. That just focus on the product, focus on the community, kind of try to get as much as feedback, and then have your own strong opinion on them. Everything that a community member is saying is not going to be right. And you have to kind of dissociate yourself with the price. I think price will move in the right direction if you're doing good work. So, yeah.
Yeah, a small take I have here, I think it helps if you have the liberty of having co-founders. It sort of helps for co-founders to focus on different things, right? So like somebody can just be heads down building product and engineering, and somebody can just focus on like marketing it out. And so I think that's also a little bit how the Noise team is structured. It's also how I've seen, at least from India, the Polygon team, at least in the early days, also structured, where some people, at least one of the co-founders, used to just focus on BD and talking to the token holders and everything, and then others used to just heads down, focus on product. I think that's also like a good way of having the best of both worlds. Yeah, I think that's the time we have for today. But thanks a lot, Srijan, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tim.
And yeah.